Hello there, I'm Cain Keltic, and I've watched a lot of bad films. I don't even mean mediocre films or really disappointing films. I mean specifically films that are really hard to get through and make you wonder what you're doing with your life anymore. Films like The Room and Troll 2 don't count. If they're so bad, they're good. I mean films that are so bad that they're nothing but bad and have no redeeming qualities to them at all. I'm talking about films like the Sharknado franchise or Silent Night Deadly Night 2, but there's specifically one horror movie above the rest when it comes to pure garbage. The king of garbage horror films, you could say. You saw the title in the thumbnail. I'm of course talking about the best, worst horror film of all time, The Gingerdead Man. Now for those lucky enough to have never seen this movie before, you may be wondering what the hell I'm talking about. The Gingerdead Man is a horror movie released in 2005 by Full Moon Features. Most people probably don't know or aren't familiar with Full Moon, but they're actually quite infamous for making some of the greatest horror movies of all time. This includes, but is not limited to, the Puppet Master films, all 15 of them, Demonic Toys, Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, and a personal favorite of mine, the Evil Bong series, which has 11 films, with 3 being spin-offs called Weed Cheese, Hollow Knight, The Gingerweed Man, and Gingerdead Man vs. Evil Bong. Now it's very clear that Full Moon loves weed and B-movies, so let's talk about their greatest B-movie, The Gingerdead Man, and its obscure legacy that came with it. First, to actually watch the original Gingerdead Man, your best bet is Tubi and Roku TV, ew. Now Tubi is actually given quite a bad rap when it comes to streaming services, as it's actually very underrated, with the ability to watch a lot of great movies legally and for free. They also have a very good selection of some popular but obscure horror movies like The Slumber Party Massacre, Chopping Mall, Basket Case, and so many other classic horror movies. Tubi also has Gingerdead Man 2, Passion of the Crust, and Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, neither of which I plan on watching, ever, but it's there for those brave enough to stomach it. But let's get back to the original Gingerdead Man. The first film was released in 2005, like I said earlier, but watching it on Tubi made me think that the movie was made in 1925 because you can only watch it, at most, 480p. Take it or leave it. That made this horrible film even harder to watch because I had to squint my eyes to make anything out. It was by far the most unpleasant viewing experience I've ever had for a movie in my entire life. Of course, I could have just bought the remaster for The Gingerdead Man for $17, but honestly, if this movie wasn't free, then you would have had to pay me to see this garbage. Now that all of the mumbo jumbo is out of the way, let's talk about the plot for this movie. Spoiler alert, it was god-awful. The movie starts off immediately, with no studio logos or title cards to slow us down. That's how a good movie should be, with no fluff or a scene dragging on and should just cut straight to the point. Thankfully, this movie knows exactly how long to keep its audience watching, with an astronomical length of an hour and 10 minutes. This means that the film will be fast-paced and just get to the point like that. Right? Well, we'll get there when we get there. Right now, we're at a diner called Cadillac Jack's, and we get to meet the iconic actor Gary Busey. Legendary actor Gary Busey is known for his iconic roles in films like Predator 2, Point Break, Grown Ups, and Piranha DD. Anyways, legendary actor Gary Busey just shot this waitress only for some cheesy orchestral song to play. And so does this really out-of-place dog sound effect of a cash register. Like, there's clearly a cash register in this scene, so why do you need a fake sound of it? It's extremely stupid, and apparently his old man thinks it is too, because he pulls out his knife and tries to stab Gary Busey out of pure anger for that sound effect. Welp, Gary Busey just shot this old man in a heartbeat, and now he's dead. Rest in peace, Gigi. Gone but not forgotten. Anyways, legendary actor Gary Busey notices that the corpse of the random old guy had a son, and more importantly, a daughter. Gary Busey is like, damn girl, you fucking stink, so that way she'll finally put on deodorant. Her brother is like, nuh-uh, it was me, I'm the one with BO, and the legendary actor Gary Busey is like,
shut up.
Now that Gary B knows this little guy is straight up capping, the beta male brother tries to defuse the situation and calm down the sigma male robber, Gary Busey. The beta male tries to pull a Steven Universe and asks Gary to stop shooting people like 20 times, only for Busey to be like, the only way to kill a monster is to become one, and offers the boy his pistol to try and shoot him. Steven Universe over here then says, alright, killing it is, only for Busey baby to stab him with his dad's own knife. That's the reason why you bring a knife to a gunfight, kids. Gary Busey then calls out Stinky over here and reveals that her real name is Kitty, although she must be very deaf because they have to say it 50 times for Kitty to hear her.
Here, Kitty. Here, Kitty. Here, Kitty. Kitty.
Once Kitty finally hears the legendary actor Gary Busey, she stands up only for Busey to say, "Hey, even if you happy-o, I'm not gonna kill you, but I am gonna kill you because my mama said anyone who doesn't wear deodorant is a sinner." Only for Gary to have a staring contest, then shoot, miss, and notice the police talk sound effect in the background.
Oh shit.
Causing him to run off screen and transform into this villain of the film known as the
Intro credits.
I'm not even joking, the opening credits to this movie is nearly 5 minutes long, and it's just this corny and obnoxious background music over some cremation ashes. I thought it was just going to keep going for 20 minutes because it was a drag. Honestly, I think the credits took nearly half the screen time for this horrible movie, because now there's like 40 minutes of real footage, and I assure you, none of it is entertaining. Now once we get through the opening title, we see what happened to Kitty after the whole legendary robber standoff thing. It turns out that she works at a bakery, or maybe a brewery, and has a picture of all the dead people on the walls. Kitty looks at a picture of her brother and is like, "Damn bro, we were never able to go to the strip club and see some boobies for your 21st. I'm not even joking this time, this is a real line.
Whoever you are up there, I hope they have strippers and Lone Star.
I couldn't make it up if I tried. Oh, and when I said that she has all the dead people so far on the walls, I wasn't joking either, as legendary prisoner Gary Busey has been sent to the electric chair and has become a legendary pile of ash after being cremated. It also turns out that Gary Busey's real name is Millard Fendelmeyer. Ew, no wonder he uses a stage name. I thought Richard Starkey was bad enough. It also turns out that Fendelmeyer is actually a ghost, or Kitty is replaying an old memory of him.
I'll get you for this, even from beyond the grave, because my mom was a witch in Coonsboro. You are finished.
It's never explained in the film because why would it be? It doesn't matter though, as the plot hole is interrupted by some mysterious knocking. Kitty thinks that it's her coworker Brick, but it turns out it was a special delivery, because who doesn't need some of Grandma's gingerbread seasoning, especially when the UPS man is dressed up like a fucking wizard, which she doesn't seem to care about in the slightest. I'd at least be a little excited if my mailman was a wizard. Kitty starts talking to herself out loud, only for it to turn out that her name isn't actually Kitty, but Sarah, first Ringo Starr, then legendary stage name Gary Busey, and now Kitty. What's the deal with stage names these days? Anyways, Sarah starts opening her box of sugar, spice, and everything nice, until my favorite movie character of all time shows up, Brick. He was in the back trying to find the actual supplies, before Sarah had to ruin everything with her voodoo baking mix like a loser. Legendary character Brick also tells Sarah that he has tickets for WrestleApalooza, where he'll make his debut as the greatest wrestler of all time.
And in this corner, straight from Hell's Kitchen, the Butcher Baker.
Sounds like fun.
Sarah says, "Nah, I'm way too cool for that. Get back to work, slave." Then Sarah has PTSD flashbacks of her dead family and tells Butcher Baker how much her brother liked boobies, which distracts the legendary wrestler as he cuts his hand. While Brick is bleeding out due to Sarah's own grief, she's like, "Hey Brick, put your bleeding hand right into our baking mix that we are going to bake and serve to all of our customers." Like honestly, who cares about a killer gingerbread man when there are real horrors like unsanitary kitchens and HIV? Sarah pretends to care, but we all know that Butcher Baker can handle the heat. Sarah then gets distracted by some screaming in the bakery, but it just turns out to be Julia, the kind of stereotypical Hispanic woman which hasn't aged the best. But that can be said for everything about this movie. It turns out that Julia wasn't screaming in terror though, but in joy, because legendary death row inmate Fendelmeyer has become a legendary barbecue in the electric chair. Sarah's like, "Okay, I don't pay you to tell me the tea, I pay you to work on that damn birthday cake." And then we see legendary wrestler Butcher Baker preparing his wrestling speech, and it nearly sends shivers to my spine.
Greetings, masked mercenary. We meet at last. Prepare to meet your maker, for tonight your ass is toast. Your ass is toast.
Honestly though, who doesn't love
Butcher Baker?
Anyways, the gingerbread dough starts making some creepy whispering to eat the drywall. But Sarah and Julia are too focused on a gunshot from outside the bakery. Was it legendary gunman Gary Fendelmeyer? No, of course not. It was a legendary grandma with a whiskey bottle and a goddamn shotgun, shooting down the sign of the bakery's competition. I don't know if you could get away with that nowadays, but this movie takes place in Waco, Texas, so it wouldn't surprise me. Also, I don't want to get off track, but who in their right mind decided that a movie themed around a gingerbread man should take place in the least Christmassy place in all of America? There is no snow and definitely not a single mention of the word Christmas at all. Like, I don't know when this movie is supposed to take place, but it is 100% not a Christmas movie, regardless of what anyone tells me. Although I'm pretty sure that I'm one of 3 people who have actually watched it in the first place. Anyways, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Shotgun Grandma. So Sarah's all like, hey, it's okay, Ma. Our larger and more successful competition won't run us out, so stop drinking and put that goddamn shotgun down. Legendary and slightly drunk Shotgun Grandma's like, you promise? And Sarah's like, I guess. Now shut up, Ma. Julia promises to babysit Granny Gunslinger, but meanwhile, the doe from earlier is giving birth to a hand. It's a boy. No, it's a girl. Or it's probably just a Russian homunculus made from Butcher Baker's blood. See, it's learning Russian already, but get your Bible ready just in case. Sarah is unaware of this creature, however, as she's distracted by the owner of her rival bakery. His name is Jimmy Dean, and he's actually pretty chill despite the fact his sign got shot up by Gram Gram. He's so chill in fact that he offers Sarah $50K to sell the bakery right then and there. He also has a daughter named Lorna who is just a stereotypical diva character. Sarah's like, I hate both of you, so no deal, and runs back into the bakery. Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned this yet, but this bakery is where the entire movie takes place for the rest of the film. That means that the entire movie only had 2, maybe 3 real sets, if we include the diner from the intro, and the inside of the kitchen separate from the front exterior of the bakery. So Sarah's back inside the only set in the movie again, to talk to Butcher Baker about all of her problems right now, even though you can barely hear her in the first place.
Have you ever been in that point in your life where everything seems so messed up that you don't even know where to start to fix it?
What did you say?
Have you ever been in that point in your life where everything seems so messed up that you don't even know where to start to fix it?
One more time.
Have you ever been in that point in your life where everything seems so messed up that you don't even know where to start to fix it?
Well, even if we can't hear her, it seems that legendary emotional support Butcher Baker is helping her out, even if he fumbled again. You deserve someone better than her anyway, Brick. While Sarah just broke Brick's heart, she lets him leave early while she works on her gingerbread homunculus, while some Banjo-Kazooie-ass music starts playing out of nowhere. They should have hired Grant Kirkhope instead, honestly. She then puts her 1 gingerbread man into the oven to bake it. To be very clear, she only made 1 cookie out of that huge box of flour from the UPS wizard. Jesus, no wonder you're going out of business. Regardless, she puts a singular cookie into the massive furnace, where it immediately transforms into SpongeBob and Patrick drying up in that one movie. While Sarah is baking a SpongeBob cookie, the power starts to go out and she begins investigating, only to find Lorna from earlier trying to sabotage the bakery by planting a rat. It seems like a hassle and slightly illegal when you could have just arrested the alcoholic grandma for, you know, shooting your restaurant. In any case, Sarah does not take too kindly to the rat and solves the issue by starting a pie fight. Even if it's the least choreographed and sloppiest fight I've seen in film history, it keeps randomly cutting to the legendary Cookie Man, look-smaxing to the extreme. While the girls are fighting, Lorna hits a power switch of some sort that causes the oven to practically explode. And when I mean explode, I mean a bunch of cheesy CGI graphics start to play. The only thing cooler than these cheesy special effects though, is the introduction to the legendary and iconic slasher, the motherfucking Gingerdead Man. Hey, he even has a bootleg Chucky laugh. That's gotta be worth something. Once the power turns back on, we see legendary character Amos, who we've never seen or heard of before.
Amos, are you in on this?
Am I in on what?
Also, if your name is Amos, then I apologize for what I'm about to say, but who names their kid Amos? Until rewatching this god-awful movie again, I forgot how to pronounce his name. I called him Amos or Amos, but just stuck with Unis Honest, because at least you were entertaining. Regardless, Unis Honest over here had no clue what Lorna was doing and was just waiting in the car while she placed down a quote-unquote note. Sarah doesn't believe Unis Honest for a second either, but you don't have the time to worry about that right now because the oven looks like it's about to explode. Pretty girl Lorna doesn't seem to care in the slightest until she sees her new admirer for the first time, which causes her to freak out. The gang thinks she's just trying to manipulate them even more and opens the oven to see what's going on inside, which unleashes legendary Cookie Man into the bakery for the rest of the movie. The gang doesn't see anything at first though, until the smooth talking doughboy officially introduces himself.
The hell is that?
Well, it sure ain't the Pillsbury fucking Doughboy.
They all enter into a state of shock, which is fair. Once the Pillsbury Doughboy feels out his one-liner, he scampers away and turns off his terror radius. Sarah's like, hey, that legendary gingerbread man sounded like another legendary person I met before, but I can't remember where. The gang starts talking about what the hell just happened, and can't believe that the walking, talking gingerbread man that he just saw was a gingerbread man that Sarah was baking. Which seems, rather obvious, but I guess it's not an everyday occurrence in Texas. Honest is like...
Wait. Are you telling me that thing is a cookie you were baking? That's crazy. Crazy.
Oh, but I assure you, Anus, it only gets worse from here. Amois thinks that it's all just an elaborate prank, but his lady friend Lorna says that it's black magic. She says that she's actually seen something like this before when she used a Ouija board with her friends, which leads to my favorite joke in the movie.
A couple years ago, when me and some of my friends took out this Ouija board, okay, and we started putting our fingers on it and on this pointy plastic thingy, and it was moving around and it was spelling out things for us. It was this message from this dead girl named Rosalind, and she told us that some psycho had killed her and cut her up into pieces and then wrapped it in tinfoil and then mailed it off all across the country to her relatives.
It spelled all that out for you?
I don't know why I find this joke so funny, but the realistic delivery of, "It spelled that out for you?" just came out of nowhere, and was definitely the most clever joke in the film, which isn't saying much. Amush continues to roast her alive, while she stays on the defensive. Amos thinks that if the cookie killer is real, then they capture him, and take him to some talk shows to make a boatload of money.
How much dough can you make from a talking cookie? Dough, cookie.
They can't all be winners, Amos. The gang try to find the legendary Ginger, and hear some freaky ASMR in the deep freezer. They try to lock the little milk chugger inside, but they find out he's already escaped. Sarah tries to call the police, but the phones are not working, so Lorna calls her father to pick her up instead, because there are baked homicidal goods after her.
And we got homicidal baked goods after us.
Amos's phone dies right after that though, so all they can do is wait now. Meanwhile, the drunk grandma from before shows up back at the bakery, and this time she's missing her iconic shotgun. Turned out she may need it too, because she sees an evil and disgusting rat messing up her kitchen, which causes her to drink her sorrows away and tries to find whoever planted the rat in there. Gram gets scared looking around and sees some pictures of esteemed character actor Gary Busey. She said that it can't be him because he was sent to the chair, but the evil cookie man asks if she's sure about that. Grandma Betty thinks that he's just a result of too much whiskey, but it turns out he's very real, and he had the longest staring contest in the world to prove that. Betty tries to tickle him or something, but Gingy says to respect his boundaries.
Ever try a ladyfinger?
Also, I had no clue what this meant before googling it, but apparently ladyfingers are a real British pastry that looks like a finger-shaped Twinkie. Also, that was the only time we've seen any blood in this slasher in over 30 minutes, and we're nearly done with this movie already. Now that Grandma's bleeding out, we see that the rest of the gang is still standing around the front entrance without leaving. Lorna says that Sarah's working with the Biscuit Boy because they clearly knew each other. Amos says, "You're crazy, girl," and runs to his car to find Lorna's phone, even though at that point, why not just drive away altogether? But who knows, this film was fucking stupid. Speaking of stupid things, the Gingerdead Man waits for Betty to regain consciousness like a good little boy, and he even recommends her to an AA meeting. Betty asks what the hell is that thing, and the Gingerdead Man is like, "It's your boy Gary B on the beat," and Gram goes, "Oh god, not your mixtape again." It's too late to hear his rap beats though, as Julia runs into the bakery trying to find Betty. Once Julia finds her, she gets mad that Betty snuck out to get some booze, and doesn't want to get fired because of it. Even if Grandma has a problem though, it doesn't matter. The Gingerdead Man is loose, and she has to run while she still can. Julia wonders why she still works here, but not for long because Mr. Cookie Man whacks her with a pan, Tom and Jerry style.
That's gonna leave a mark.
Well, besides Tom and Jerry being actually funny. The film then transitions to Omos going into his car that he can clearly drive away in, and grabs Lorna's phone and a sick revolver to turn this gingerbread man into a Gingerdead Man. And get it? Cause the movie is called Ginger... Yeah, it's fine. Who cares anymore? Sarah and Lorna have some stupid dialogue about relationships and how Lorna doesn't love Amos and is only using him. He returns shortly after though, and it turns out that Lorna's phone was dead too. And not only is her phone dead, but the bakery's power is dead too. Sarah and Amos plan to power the backup generator on and shoot the legendary pastry. But Lorna wants to stand around all night like a loser. Speaking of losers, her father finally shows up and wonders why everyone in this movie is so incredibly stupid. Honestly, sir, I don't know. While Lorna's father is pulling into the bakery, Amos and Sarah are feeling lovey-dovey for each other after talking for 2 minutes. It also doesn't help that we've only known this guy for 2 minutes either, but oh well. Back to Lorna's dad Jimmy, we see that he's agitated trying to find his daughter, doing no good things with no good people. But what's worse than a no good person? A no good gingerbread man who's driving a car with a rolling pin. I'm gonna be completely honest here that this is the most creative part of the movie by far. Even if it's not much, at least he put a little thought in there. So while using this convoluted driving method, this ugly-ass cookie pins Jimmy Dean Breakfast against the wall with his car. No one notices though, as Sarah and Amos are talking about nothing burgers and boring chit-chat for the sake of dragging a short movie into a slightly longer and much more boring film. The two reunite with Lorna, who starts complaining immediately again, only for the gang to get distracted by a trail of blood leading into the deep freezer. But Lorna decides she's already had enough, and waits outside for her dead dad. Sarah and Amos go into the freezer to find, whoa, I could not show that on YouTube. Oh god, kids, cover your eyes. That large and pixelated bar is actually Julia from earlier, who's been covered in icing with conveniently placed cherries while being knocked out with a pan. The two of them help Julia and try to rejuvenate her, and while doing so, Sarah finally realizes that Gary Busey is the Gingerdead Man. No way. That came out of nowhere though. I was genuinely surprised. The audience needs time to process this plot twist themselves, so we transition into Lorna Dean saying Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwich pinned against a wall. I guess he was trying to pull off a Brokeback Mountain vibe rather than a spaghetti western, but Lorna still cries for her daddy. She then grieves for like 2 minutes until she's back to normal again. Unfortunately. Now Sarah and Amos are getting really close now and not holding the good Christian family values I want to see in my horror B-movies. Lorna's about to see the unholiness herself until she's caught off guard by Gingy and his wire or something? Well, whatever it is, it slashes a pretty gross face, but at least people will quote The Dark Knight whenever they see her now. She doesn't seem too fond of it though. It makes a quip at Amos.
Lorna, you don't look that bad.
Well, that's easy for you to say. You're ugly.
While Lorna is having a mental breakdown, we get to see a very random and out of place scene of a legendary gingerbread actor, Gary Busey, quietly yelling at a rat so he can set up something. We're then right back to Lorna and the gang, and the two lovebirds have decided to stick together in the bakery. But after Lorna sees Julia cosplaying as a frosting snowman, she decides she's had enough for real this time, and tries to leave the bakery by herself. Turns out she should have left with the million chances she had before, because this time, she steps into a tripwire that launches a knife straight to her forehead. The kill is nothing fancy, but with how horrible this film is, it looks like the greatest gore I've ever seen. Now, Sarah and Amos know that they're in a Home Alone movie, and not the good ones, but the really stupid sequels. Sarah knows what Gingy did last summer though, because she entices him and asks him, what is he waiting for? While Sarah's trying to be the final girl, Amos uses his ammo to shoot the little doughboy, but of course he misses as the cookie monster runs away. Our heroes keep exploring the bakery and are having a back and forth with Gary Busey, and things start getting personal when he mentions Sarah's dead family and her yee-ass haircut. Sarah then finds her mom's Twinkie, ladyfinger, on a table and starts freaking out for some reason. She's freaking out so much that I have no idea what she's even saying. Sarah, what are you saying? What? Fuck it, I can't understand you when you're like this. Amos seems calm at least, because he's realized that the finger is pointing to the oven, or more specifically, what's inside the oven. It turns out that this short little gremlin put Gram in the oven, but Amos is able to drag her out of there, only for Sarah to be pushed inside the oven herself, and Amos gets knocked out by Gary Busey's legendary mallet. While the oven slowly bakes Sarah alive, Amos briefly gains consciousness and shoots the lock off on his first shot somehow. Sarah escapes and starts getting really touchy with the semi-conscious Amos, which the Gingerdead Man respectively ridicules, and it turns out that he also grabbed their gun. I don't know how that would work for someone with no fingers, but shoot your shot. Literally. It turns out that he won't be able to shoot anything though, as he's interrupted by the greatest character in all of film history, Butcher Baker.
Whoa. I was driving back to Resapalooza, saw you guys through the windows.
So you gotta get out of here.
Don't worry. I can handle this.
Butcher Baker then dodges every single bullet like a madman and prepares to wipe the floor with this little gumdrop baby. Oh, also, Julia helps by hitting the ginger ale with a frying pan.
You are
Once Gary Busey's persona is on the floor, Butcher Baker pins him to the ground and starts getting freaky with the bread boy. Gingy's all like, "What are you gonna do? Chomp my head off?" And unfortunately for Busey, it turns out that he does, as Brick the Butcher Baker becomes Freak the Freaky Muncher. becomes Freak the Freaky Muncher. Brick then bites his head clean off. My god, if you didn't have a vor fetish before, you definitely do now. Butcher Baker then starts chugging some milk like a freak, but then Julia seems to be really into it, so I guess they match each other's freak. Gram regains consciousness, so the gang tries to get her help after the whole missing finger and nearly burnt alive thing. Butcher Baker is still inside, however, and as he looks into the mirror, we see that he's now been possessed by the legendary spirit of character actor Gary Busey. Once Grandma is safe, Sarah heads back inside to check on the legendary Butcher Baker, but he's not looking good with the demonic eyes and makeup, even though Sarah does not seem to notice or care at all. That is, of course, until Brick starts sounding like a little gingerbread virgin, which immediately triggers Sarah's Gary Busey senses. The possessed Butcher Baker then decides to act really creepy and do things that the real Sigma Baker would never do in his life. Amos hears some screaming back inside the bakery and leaves the rest of the gang to go investigate. He catches up with Sarah and Gingerbrick at the last second and immediately figures out what happened, unlike some people. Gary Busey has the advantage though, as he punches Amos with Brick's super strength. Either way, Amos decides that he has had enough and just blasts a possessed wrestler with some lead. It doesn't matter though, as Brick's body has a magical healing ability from being so badass. Or possibly some magic voodoo stuff, but who even cares at this point? I sure as hell don't. Evil Brick starts taunting Sarah, but it doesn't work, as Sarah, Amold, and Julia all push him back inside the oven, where the Gingerdead Man was born. Once Butcher Baker starts to burn alive and melt, the entire gang starts to grieve his death, like every person in the world should do when a real legend dies. After this, there's a random time skip, but it doesn't say for how long, which means that I get to decide, and I believe that takes place let's just say a few hours later. Sarah starts a bake sale with a whole lot of customers right next to a crime scene with a bunch of unexplained murders. Sarah talks to her nurse friend who helped Gram. Also, Sarah is studying to become a nurse, but it was so irrelevant that I didn't mention it at all until now. The legendary alcoholic grandma is now just a boring grandma, as she cut off the booze when she saw some bodies drop, which is respectable, I guess. What's not respectable are these evil little kids who want them gingerbread cookies in the middle of summer. Sarah's about to strangle these kids herself until one of the nurses reveals that the UPS wizard from earlier dropped off another delivery. Wow, would you look at that? It's a bunch of potential sequels. Hopefully they don't make any more though. And don't call the next sequel The Passion of the Crust. Right? We'll get there when we get there. Regardless of how many sequels they'll make, how many kills do the legendary Gingerdead Man get before his tasty demise? Well, let's get to the numbers and find out. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm not as cool as James A. Janice, and my channel is more like a inanimate carcass over dead meat anyways. But now that I've gone over the movie, let me summarize my thoughts real quick. I think this movie is very interesting when it comes to being the worst film I've ever watched, and the fact that I had to rewatch this movie multiple times to write the script did not help out at all in the slightest. I think that the design for Gary Busey's Gingerdead Man is hideous and absolutely abysmal. I think the acting in this movie is as corny as it gets, and it feels like it just goes from one cliche to the next. The music sucks and makes my ears bleed, and I couldn't hear half the sentences in the film without subtitles. I don't think the actors were at fault for most of the issues, and it was definitely more the fault of the writers, but even then, I do not condone any hate or harassment sent to anyone who worked on this movie, no matter how bad you may think it is. Even if it had a horrible production and terrible creative choices, the people responsible for the films most likely had no ill will when making this, and I think the crew probably enjoyed making the films themselves at least. I also have to give huge props to Gary Busey for his performance, and the only fun fact that I could find about this movie is that Busey was only paid $25,000 for his role, and mainly did it just so he could be in a funny movie. I think the movie is overly stretched out, and should have been a short film instead. But it's something to put on and shut your brain off, I guess. At the very least, you can get some friends and watch something as horrible as this movie together, and maybe, just maybe, get a couple laughs out of it. Maybe. I don't think this movie is so bad it's good, I just find it so bad that it's bad. But I've also grown to love this film, and it's definitely a great conversation starter for me and anyone else. So spread the love of this movie yourself, and I genuinely mean it when I say that you should watch this film yourself, and form your own opinion. Even if I think it's the worst film of all time that no one should watch, that doesn't mean it's the objective truth, and I think you should decide that for yourself instead of listening to some random person's opinion just because he tortured himself first. Either way, I'm Cain Keltic, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been trying to up my production on these videos and make them as enjoyable as possible, so any feedback you can give me is highly appreciated. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the summer, and feel free to like and subscribe, but only if you want to, as it's not a big deal if you don't. And if you dislike the video, feel free to, as I encourage my audience to criticize me wherever possible, so I can improve my content even more for the next time at least. But I think that's about it, guys, so you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.
The way reality turned its back on Gary Busey. How am I doing today, Gary Busey? You're doing great. Good. Then I'll keep it up.